Hey everybody, welcome to our second monthly Fandom Feels book club for the Fandom.net. My name is Kate, and I'm here with Natasha
Hi.
and Ellie.
Hello.
And this month we are discussing The Young Elites by Marie Lu, which is just a fantastic YA fantasy that we all totally loved. And you can follow along with us with the hashtag FandomFeels on Twitter, or you can submit any questions that you have via our Hangout chat or via YouTube, and we'll interact and discuss all of your comments on the series as well. So be sure to throw some of your ideas in there, and we'll play around with them. We'll have some fun. All right. So let's start. For you guys, how did this book, what were you thinking when you came into this? Because we've all read Marie Lu's Legend series, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
And I was a huge fan of that series. I'm pretty positive you guys were as well. We had a lot of feels in the end of it, if I recall. And
At the end of the Legend series?
yes,
Yeah. Oh
we
yeah.
had a lot of feelings. So coming into this one, what were you guys thinking, especially when you first heard the premise?
Oh my god. I actually didn't know that much coming into it. Like I knew what was on the back of the book, but that's pretty much it. I don't know. I didn't know what to expect because I mean, all I had read from Marie Lu was the Legend trilogy, which I loved. Um, and so I was just excited to have something else from Marie Lu. I don't know. I did not know what to expect, but I was kind of blown away.
Exactly. Natasha?
Yeah, I hate starting with sorry. I did like I mean, I didn't, I knew that it was going to be different. I think I spoke with Marie actually before The Young Elites came out or before I had read it. And then, after reading the Legend series, I knew that it was going to be different, that she was talking about it being more fantasy, but I don't think I realized Adelina's, her portrayal, basically, and, the darkness of her character. So I was pleasantly surprised at the difference that it was compared to the Legend series, but at the same time, it was very Marie Lu, in the way that she just, writes her characters. But I like her writing, so I was okay with that.
Yeah, Marie Lu kind of has this writing style that's all her own, and I absolutely am obsessed with it. So it works for me. Like, if I could write a book that someday got compared to one of Marie Lu's, I'd be pretty damn excited. Like, that's how much I love her as an author. So let's talk about the concept of the story, which people started to say when it was first being advertised, oh, it's like X-Men because the characters have powers, they're they develop these powers, and therefore it's like X-Men. And even though Marie Lu didn't seem to mind those comparisons, they drove me nuts. Because X-Men didn't invent the idea of people with powers. Of course, they monopolized on it and kind of made it a really big deal. But not everyone who develops a sense of power and supernatural powers of any sort is basing their story off of X-Men. It drives me nuts. And I love comics. So it's not like I have anything against the X-Men. But did you guys feel that way coming in, or am I just being crazy?
I didn't think of X-Men, I guess, because it's so steeped in fantasy that, if you read a lot of fantasy, you'll see that a lot of people in them have powers. So I never even, took it as a X-Men style storytelling, the whole idea of powers, especially because I had read something like that, and when I had read, I'm going to say this, but I know that you and I, Kate, both don't like the series anymore, but the Tauro Mafi's Shatter Me series was more to me in comparison with the X-Men, because there's a scene in there. I'm sorry if I'm going to spoil this for people, but there's a scene in there where all these characters start showing off their powers, and to me that's very X-Men-ish. But for the young elites, I don't know. I just never really thought of comparing the two, because, like I said, it's very much fantasy, and it's not modern day at all. So I just didn't think of it that way.
For the record, covering your ears doesn't work when you have headphones in.
Sorry, Ellie.
That wasn't even a real.
But I didn't really spoil it. I don't think I really spoiled anything for you.
Didn't. You didn't.
No.
So it's okay. All right. So
I just felt like an idiot and needed to share.
So the young elites, we've got Adelina, who is our main character, and she is and I feel like I'm going to pronounce this wrong, a Malfetto, which is, I feel like
I was
Italian. Because basically this really cool high fantasy Italian Renaissance style setting, and it's super fun, but there's a lot of words that I don't know how to pronounce. And Ellie is waving the book.
Okay, wait, can I just say, so this book, I got it on my Nook the day it came out, but I hadn't had a chance to read it yet, because 5 other things came out at the same time that were in the middle of series. So I had this on my Nook for a couple of weeks, and then as I was getting ready for Y'all Fest, I knew Marie Lu was going to be there, so I needed to get a physical copy for her to sign. So this is the second version of this book that I bought. Then, as we were getting closer and closer to Y'all Fest, I realized that I was not going to get a chance to read it before we went. So Flo and I listened to the entire book on audiobook. So that is the third version of this book that I have. And then we got there and they were giving out this first chapter thing. So I have 3.5 versions of this book.
So you're the expert, clearly.
Yes. Anyway, I just needed to share that.
All right.
First audiobook I listened to.
All right. So our main character is Adelina, and she is a Malfetto, which is how I'm going to say it without the correct pronunciation, and that's okay.
I think that's pretty much the correct pronunciation.
Yeah.
Which means she has survived from the blood fever that has decimated her society, and as a side effect, she has unusual markings. Everyone has their own. Hers is that her hair has turned completely silver, which I actually think is pretty damn cool. And
Yes.
She also happens to have an eye patch.
Which you are sporting right now.
I had to wait for the moment. But
Unfortunately, my computer is being weird and it won't let me put my eye patch on. So sorry.
it's okay.
I got mine. We're good. And Kate has hers.
Exactly.
So she's not your typical heroine in the sense that she's like this oh, I'm such a gorgeous girl and I just don't know how gorgeous I am. Woe is me. She, the struggle is real. The girl's missing an eye. So she hasn't had it easy. And her father is about to sell her to be someone's mistress, which is not very pleasing. And then her powers rise up. And that scene is scary as hell. At least for me.
Mhm.
For you guys?
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
All right, and then she comes and she joins the Dagger Society, which is full of our different Malfettos with powers who are known as the Young Elites, which is where the title comes from, obviously. And they all have different really cool powers, but which one was your favorite, do you think?
Ellie, you start.
Um, I mean, I like Enzo's, but I think that might be the character more than the powers. Um, but I do really love Enzo. Like fire. I don't know. There's just something cool about being able to control fire.
So you're a pyromaniac.
For this, sure.
What about you, Natasha?
I started again. Sorry.
Um,
Well, looking over, let me just explain. You know, first of all, we have like Enzo's fire thing. We have Adelina's
Illusions.
illusions. Yeah, Raphael in his what do you call that? Like influence or whatever, his control.
Yeah, he has a weird one, and I can't help but
It's
think
like
way that maybe he got gypped a little because his whole thing is like, oh, well, I can find other young elites and kind of make them like me. Like,
yeah, like okay, so he
and
yeah, I mean
obviously he'll be able to use that to some devious ends later on. But
he's
right
an
now,
influencer, I guess, you know, in that sense. I think I like the architects the most because I don't know if you remember what the architect does. He basically can touch anything and then reform them into a different spot, apparently.
oh, yeah.
But there wasn't a lot. I don't know if there was a whole lot about the architect at that time. I'm kind of fearful about Raphael's because, you know, basically he gets to influence and somehow I mean it's almost like mind control and that's a little bit too powerful. So I'd say more or less the architect. If he's able to like manipulate, like change it to something else, that would be even more awesome. But that's pretty much, I think, what I like.
All right, I think mine is actually, and this is awful because it is the villain, but Terran Santoro, who is our antagonist, can heal instantly.
oh, that's
Pretty much
true.
anything. And it's not like I get hurt very often, but I feel like if that's internal as well, it could come in handy. Like, if I never had a stomachache again, that would be great. You know?
You know, I think
True.
though that because of that, I think that's part of the reason why people compare the X-Men to the book, I guess, if that's what you've heard. Only because, you
Because
know,
Wolverine
one
can
of
do
the
that.
most famous X-Men is Wolverine. Oh yeah, Wolverine. He totally can heal himself. Well, he just heals automatically. He doesn't age really, and so that's his actual mutation. The claws are not it, but the fact that he can actually heal, he's self-healing, is his power.
Yeah, but I
So
feel
that
like
might
that,
be
even
the
though
reason why there's that comparison. But like I said, I don't really like when I read that. It's not like I thought, oh, X-Men, you know, or Wolverine.
he's not the only one who does it. Like, historically,
No,
traditionally, throughout
historically,
literature
but
and
he's,
film.
I mean, a lot of people these days, that's where they're going to. This is their influence. Anything prior to, Marvel Comics or DC Comics, a lot of people, unless you read fantasy, unless you're really steeped into that, it's not something that's really popular as far as general population goes, as far as, like, popularity goes or pop culture, you're going to automatically think X-Men. And that's probably what. And we're reverting back to that previous question, which I didn't mean to do, but I was just saying that's basically what I think that's why people think about the X-Men. It's because of Terrence's ability.
Okay. Well, moving on. Now that we've talked about what powers are favorite, what actual member of the Dagger Society was your favorite and why? Go ahead, you giggly, giggly girls.
I know. Well, it's hard for me to say. It's definitely not Adelina, unfortunately, because as much as she is, like, the main character, and the protagonist, but what happens in the end
She's
and
scary.
what happened throughout. She's not your typical. She has issues, basically.
Right. So let's go off on that tangent real quick before we get into the other answer then, because the other answer is easy. But she has a lot of rage. She's really dark. Were you able to root for her for at least the majority of the story?
I wanted to. So, yeah, I'm gonna say yes, just because for most of the book, she wasn't actually at that really dark place. You saw glimpses of it, but there were only a couple places where I needed to really step back and go, whoa, you are terrifying right now. So she's definitely not my favorite character because of that. Because there were those moments where I'm like, I cannot support you even for a second at the moment. But for a lot of the book, you understood where she was coming from. You knew her background, you knew what she was trying to get away from, and you knew why, you knew her motivation for everything she was doing. And a lot of it was just trying to save her sister.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I was rooting for her, even though I didn't necessarily like her methods.
What about you, Nat?
I think I was rooting for her in the beginning because of the, what she had experienced with her father. But, I think because of what Raphael had warned Enzo about, as far as Adelina being dangerous, I was actually cautious myself. And, of course, it's just that the way that she was manifesting her powers and stuff, it was all based on fear and based on anger. And so I was conflicted, maybe. That confliction ended, like, when Spider met his end. Aside from that, I don't know. I don't know if I can say I was rooting for her. I just wanted her to do the right thing. And so, I wouldn't say I was, rooting for her to, like, be the, kill people or, end this thing, but especially because of the way that she is. But I definitely just, I was like thinking, okay, you're gonna do the right thing right now. You're not gonna do this thing. You're not going to. And things just didn't happen the way that, a normal protagonist would have a normal protagonist do. So,
see, I think I'm a sadist because I love that. Because even though, it's not particularly comfortable, for instance, when she kills Dante, which you just mentioned, Spider, I should say, which is his kind of code name within the Dagger Society.
Yeah, he was being a total jerk.
It's one of those things where it's like, I'm not sure if it's rooting, but I guess it is, because I'm kind of like, You do what you gotta do, girl. I get it. I get it. If it's that or this guy's gonna end up getting your sister killed, absolutely take him out. And there are so few instances where, like,
but see, it wasn't
angry and she wants to, but I don't know if she would intentionally, like, turn around and kill hordes of people. Just because somebody tells you that someone's dangerous doesn't mean that they're going to cause severe danger. You know what I mean? Like, in a way, theoretically, we're all really dangerous beings. It's just, do we act on it? And will she act on it? And she proves that she can under the right circumstances. But would she be that person to actually do it? I don't know. I didn't get that. I was almost worried when I first started reading the book because I thought that she was going to be, like, evil, you know?
I think that's going to come more in book 2, but we'll talk about that at the end.
And it turned out she wasn't.
Obviously, she wasn't. I mean, she's not necessarily. I mean, she doesn't turn evil, but turning evil is not necessarily like this overnight process either. So she's definitely on the fringes of between the good and the bad, and with the problem is that after what she's done, now she has to deal with the consequences, and whether or not that turns her more towards evil, that's something that like Ellie said, probably be in the second book. But for this one, I mean, like I said, I still wasn't. I don't know. I'm all about call me old-fashioned again. I'm all about being the good, doing the good thing and doing the right thing. And Adelina is definitely not quite the right thing, but obviously she knows that she's done wrong, which is something.
Natasha loves her happily ever afters.
I do. I love my happily ever afters. I mean, not that I don't like the storyline. I mean, I love the storyline. I thought it was, again, I thought it was brilliant. But the end game always, to me, it has to be. If anything, I mean, obviously this is part 1 of the 3-book series, so there's not an end game yet. But after the series, I'm like, I want to feel like, something good has occurred,
I like my bittersweet endings.
I hate bittersweet endings.
I love my bittersweet endings.
Can't stand them.
Well, that's not true.
I'm just falling out.
That's a very bittersweet ending, and we all loved it, I believe. You didn't like the end of Champion?
Of which one?
Champion? That was very bittersweet.
See, that's the thing. I didn't think it was bittersweet. Maybe that's the thing too. I'm like, for me, it wasn't bittersweet because there was like this, a hope of something else. So I thought it was more hopeful than bittersweet. To me, bittersweet is like Mockingjay, I guess. I mean, they did have a good,
I don't call that bittersweet.
A happy end ever after, but at the same time, that was the epilogue. I mean, I guess in the same way this was epilogue too. So
we're not getting into debating Mockingjay right now. It's not happening.
No, that's not what I meant to do. I'm just saying
I know.
That's what I
saw Ellie's face and I went, no.
I know we're not going there, Ellie. So I'm just saying what I think.
All right, so let's get back to that original question before we spouted off about Adelina. Who is your favorite member of the Dagger Society?
I'm going to go with Enzo, but actually, it's kind of a tie between Enzo and Raffaele.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Is that how it's said in the book?
In the audiobook? Yeah, Raffaele.
Raffaele? And
yes.
It's Enzo still? Because I know some people will say NCO for that.
Oh, Enzo.
Enzo. Okay.
Yeah.
I feel better about that mystery being solved.
Yeah.
Enzio. Why would people think it's Enzio?
Because that's one of the pronunciations
Enzo.
of that name.
What?
I'm not making it up. Look it up. Look it up.
What? I'm sorry, I didn't even hear that last part though. What you
I said,
said.
I'm not making it up.
About what?
That's one of the actual pronunciations of that name.
Oh, I see.
Enzo. Some people say Enzio.
But there's no letter there for that.
Exactly.
Italians, man. They just make stuff up.
Although, if you read the Legend series, and there's that character whose name's spelled Kaede, I always thought it was Katie,
It's
but
not?
it's not. It's Kaede.
Oh.
This comes from Marie Lou's actual mouth. Kaede is her name. So,
Well, I screwed that up.
well, I did the same thing. I always thought it was Katie. So basically, it makes sense that Raphael could be Raffaele, because I was actually thinking that when I was going over this too. But I always pronounce it Raphael anyway. But Raffaele is fine. Enzo, I thought it was Enzo. I didn't know that there was another alternate pronunciation of the name.
Well, I think Enzo sounds a lot better, so we're good.
Anyway, so I feel like Enzo obviously I love for the obvious reasons.
Mhm.
Raffaele I feel like is just like the best friend type of character. Like same reasons that I was talking about with Roar in our last chat. He's that type of character, and I always love that type of character.
For real? But he's not the best friend. He turns out to be the manipulative bastard in the end. How can you support him?
Because he's awesome. I mean, yes, he has like reservations about Adelina.
Is that what you call it?
What?
Is that what you call it? Reservation.
Wanting to kill her? Yes, reservations.
She probably has some reservations.
But like when you see him interacting with specific people, he's awesome. Even though he's kind of a liar, his personality is awesome.
All right, Natasha.
Well, Enzo's my favorite.
Enzo? You said?
Yeah, Enzo's my favorite. I mean, he's trying to do all that he can to protect the Malfettos. The problem is that none of these characters are innocent, and so, he doesn't. He has no reservations about letting Malfettos die if they don't serve a purpose. And so, that was the thing. That's why Adelina had to like work hard at like manifesting her powers more. And then, Raffaele, of course, had his own recommendations, suggestions. But Enzo is definitely my favorite because, he is trying to do good overall, I guess. But he's strong. He's strong-willed. He's handsome.
He's a prince.
He's a prince. Who is
basically everything you ever wanted, and also
he's the Prince Charming of this world, I guess.
Natasha also brings up a good point, which kind of goes back to a different question, why you do kind of root for Adelina. It's because, like, yeah, she's not, like, a good guy, but there are no good guys in this book.
No.
It's just one type of bad guy versus another type of bad guy. So you need to root for somebody.
Not one type of bad guy. It's one type of person and the better type of person.
Not really.
It's not the lesser of evils. It's because of what's going on in this world.
Right. But there's no, like, good guy.
There's a good guy. I consider Enzo a good guy. I'm just saying that he has done things to, that aren't necessarily good. But I believe he's still a good guy.
I think there's various levels of corruption involved, and that Ellie's kind of right in that no one is purely good. I'm not saying that they're bad, but it's not like you have any characters, and I like that. I like that level of kind of intrigue where everyone has the potential to be really dangerous, but they have it all kind of reined in at different levels.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna say that Enzo is probably also my favorite, but I also really liked Lucian, is it? Ellie, you're my book person, you know. That audiobook.
I don't remember.
I loose. I guess it's. I mean, for me, I always thought.
I think it's supposed to be Lucian, but I don't know.
That does not sound familiar, so I don't think it's right.
Lucent.
What is it?
Lucent.
I don't
You just
remember.
He was the one who could
I think it's the artist, right?
What?
talk to animals and kind of encourage them.
That's right. That's right. That's
Is that Star Thief?
Star Thief.
I just
Star
remember.
Thief.
I just remember Star Thief.
All right,
I don't remember the real name.
Star Thief or Windwalker, and if Lucent is Star Thief, which I think she is, then Windwalker is Gemma. She's a royalty. So
yes, Gemma, I remember.
yeah. So Lucent is Star Thief.
Yes, and I believe it's actually Gemma though who has the really cool markings. If I'm not mistaken, she's the one who has. Or is it Star Thief? I can't remember. One of his has like the like it's like described like a purpley like a port wine stained birthmark, except it's like a swirling pattern down her arm and shoulder.
I think Gemma.
Yeah, and so it's like the world's coolest tattoo also happens to be your defect.
Hold on, I marked it in my books just so that I can go back to it if I needed to. But basically, let's see.
But you know, out of all that's the thing. A lot of them have defects that make them noticeable, but are they really actually like defects? That's actually pretty cool. Did you guys think any of the other markings were cool? Which ones did you like?
Well, Raphael's is nice. He had two different eye colors. He had the green one and he had the honey one. And that's been used before, like two different eye colors is showing some kind of uniqueness to them. That's his. Yeah, and actually it's Star Thief who has the cool swirly thingies on her.
Okay, I thought so.
Fine, be that way.
Oh wait, no, I'm sorry, not Star Thief. Star Thief has the blotch on her face.
Okay, I was wrong.
Gemma has a swirly thing.
Yeah, because I remember the one scene where she's like out in public. It talks about it being like out, and everybody's like okay with it, and I'm like, how come they're okay with her but nobody else? Okay, anyway.
They were really okay with her because they were saying that they were like throwing stuff at her.
That's true.
So I guess like half and half.
Yeah.
Or the other half wasn't.
Well, her family was okay with it.
Yeah. Luckily, gosh, she's royalty. I don't know why Enzo's family wasn't okay with it.
Because somebody wanted to be queen?
Mm-hmm.
That is true.
Like, oh, look, an excuse. Bye.
So let's get into that. Let's get into the intent.
Oh, wait, did you say what your favorite markings were? Because I already said mine.
Oh yeah, Ellie, did you say yours?
Probably Gemma's. I don't know.
Yeah, I was saying Gemma's. And okay, so let's kind of get into Terran for a little bit, because all of his issues kind of stem from this really deep self-hatred. He is a Malfetto, but he's also obsessed with the queen, Enzo's sister, who wants to rid the whole world of them. So he's kind of like got this really sick idea that he's a mistake and he can make it up to the powers that be. He can make it up to the gods if he only kills off all the other mistakes first. Like, when you guys read that part, how did you feel about that? Like, it really creeped me out on like more than anything else that Adelina did even. That creeped me out on a really, like, visceral level.
As far as, I don't know, I wasn't creeped out, but Taran had some issues. He's manipulated. He's basically, yeah, and like you said, he has a self-hatred. Like, automatically, the idea of being a Malfetto, the idea of having something unnatural for him is apparently like the worst thing ever. And yet, the queen offers to let him live as long as he destroys all that is, unnatural, so the Malfettos. And he doesn't care about that because he's thinking he's doing the right thing. And I guess that is kind of creepy in the fact that he thinks that he is doing the right thing by killing off all these Malfettos. And in doing so, he feels like in doing so, he feels like he's making himself better and not part of that. Unfortunately, his trust in the queen is going to destroy him. So it makes me wonder if, somewhere along the line he'll realize the wrongness of it, or he'll realize the queen has been just using him, doesn't really love him.
I think
But,
we kind of have to wait to get into the predictions for the next book to get into that. But let's see. What do you think, Ellie, about Taran?
I mean, this book was just full of, like, secrets and crazy things. But yeah, it was interesting. I feel like I compared it a lot. I'm getting a little political now. But, like, I feel like it was almost a metaphor for homosexuals that have trouble dealing with their own sexuality and therefore are extremely homophobic towards other people.
Yeah, I think of that as well, so I'm glad you brought that up.
I got that type of feel from it. That's just like self-hatred that he put onto other people. And it was terrifying to see, because it's just like everything he was saying about these other people, how terrible they were and how they shouldn't be alive, he was talking about himself. And, like, nobody should think of themselves like that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's really twisted. It reminded me a little bit when he was like whipping himself. It reminded me slightly of the Da Vinci Code.
Yes.
I'm not sure if you guys remember the albino Silas.
I was thinking that too. Yes.
He like thinks he's some sort of abomination to the church, and so he whips himself all the time. It's creepy, man.
Yeah.
Well, what's really sad about it is that, I don't know, I mean, from what we know of his past, is that it's not like, unless he was, but secretly, it's not like he was abused by his family, or I don't know. Do you remember?
I think he's just that brainwashed.
I know, that's the problem.
That
like,
obsessed with her.
That's why I'm saying he has some issues, because I'm like, you'd think, especially living with with the Queen and with Enzo, and knowing them, that he'd have some kind of, you know, independent thought, but apparently not. And so the Queen is manipulating him, and it's just like, who's the real evil? I mean, yeah, Taryn is like obviously the main antagonist here, but he's definitely not.
Well, he's the most active antagonist.
He is.
He's the big old brute, but is he really the brains behind it? No.
No.
Not at all.
And that's why I'm like, somebody got to fix this boy.
Well, that's it. All right. And can we just, because we are kind of at the winding down point, let's talk about the ending where they do face off with Taryn, and like it's the worst possible scenario ever, and I literally just flipped out. So, for those of you who may not recall, and I don't know how you wouldn't recall, Eileen is using her powers to make Enzo look like Taryn, and they are duking it out, and she gets the opportunity when she thinks that Taryn's sort of shield is down to inflict pain upon him and disable him. And right as he gets a sword through the chest, she realizes that it is not actually the real Taryn that she's disabling. It's Enzo, and she just effectively got him killed.
Well, right before that.
Well, it was pretty much in the moment. It was way too late to actually do anything about it.
Right. Oh my God. I remember, that's one of those things where, like, I remember exactly where I was and what was happening. So, like I said,
It was that traumatic.
Yes! I was listening to this on audiobook with Flo. And at this point, we had made it to our hotel. And we had a couple hours before we needed to head out to get some autographs. So we were just, like, laying on our beds with my phone in the middle, playing the audiobook, just laying down, listening. And we're at this part, and it talks about her using her powers to cause pain to Torin. And she's like, all of a sudden, it worked. And we're like, oh, that's cool. And then it said, and then I realized it wasn't Torin, it was Enzo. And we literally at the exact same time, Flo and I just sat up on our beds and stared at the phone. Like, what is happening? Like, stop, what are you telling me right now? And yeah, we freaked out. We simultaneously and symmetrically freaked out.
Symmetrically freaked out. I think that's the best part.
Yeah, it was intense.
It was bad when she did it with Dante, and to see it happening to Enzo, the way that she, how powerful she is in her, in what she can do. It's really scary. The fact that she didn't even realize that she was causing this much pain to Enzo, and then realizing it afterwards.
Well, here's the thing. I think that she realized it. She just didn't realize it was Enzo. And
she knew. She wanted Taryn to suffer, and she thought. But at the same time, like, when you realize that it's Enzo. Yeah, it just kind of. It was like a real step back.
Well, no, that's the problem I had reading reviews and such after the fact, where people seemed to blame her as a character, and I'm sitting there going, wait, that wasn't actually her fault. Her job was to try to get through Taryn's defenses and disable him with pain, and she thought she was doing her job and doing a damn good job of it, and it just turned out to kind of go haywire. And of course, I didn't want Enzo to die, but don't worry about it, because we're going to talk about the Rose Society in a second. But I want to think that, you know, yeah, she's not going to be a good character, but I still think her intentions are good in the way that a lot of other people seem to doubt her. And especially in that scene, she didn't actually mean harm to Enzo, and people are like, oh, she killed him. Like, well, no, Terry killed him. She helped, but she didn't mean to. So it was a tough one for me. I actually really felt for her in that moment.
Yeah, the only people she actually killed were her father and Dante. Just
Yes.
throwing that out there. I mean, that's still, she shouldn't have killed them. Not my point.
Not that they had it coming, but
Her father,
maybe a little bit.
she should have stopped with Dante. But I'm backtracking now.
You shouldn't have even started with Dante, but it did happen.
He deserved it a little bit.
He didn't deserve death.
No. He deserved a little bit. She should have
A
walked
little
away.
bit of death.
No,
See, that's the problem.
a little,
That's the
no.
problem.
Like,
No, I know.
I understand
She's
her
talking about
giving.
the fear, but I'm just saying that's the problem, is that she does not know how to control. She has no control. Once it starts
Right.
going, she can't stop herself, and that was the problem that they were having with others, and that's why Raffaele had said we shouldn't use her because she has no control. And,
Right. But it's also, so that's where Raffaele, like, yes, he was like trying to hold her back, but if he hadn't tried to hold her back, is it possible she would have gained that control?
What do you mean?
That's true too. If he wasn't trying to stop her from practicing and stuff, maybe she could have gained more control.
So there was that whole scene where Enzo was yelling at Raffaele because he found out that he was like purposely holding Adelina back in their lessons and stopping her from learning how to use her powers completely. And the question is, if she had learned how to use her powers completely, would she have had more control over it and been able to stop herself?
Yeah, well, I think he didn't want to. I don't know if it was that he didn't want to stop her completely. Was it? Or wasn't it like he didn't want to rush her? Because
Well, he was saying he didn't want to rush her, but at the same time he was stopping her completely. So I think that
well, I think that's just because of fear of what she can do.
Totally.
Well, no, well,
And so
kind
the thing
of,
is that
but I'm not sure. You guys seem to have some positive vibes about Raffaele, and I know he is charming, but I think that he's the character who deep down is kind of the poisonous rat bastard of the series. That's my theory on him. So I don't know, even though he comes off as having good intentions, I feel like he's the character who does not have good intentions and is going to make Adelina's life miserable, and ultimately, probably if she becomes some sort of big villain at the end, that he's probably going to be involved directly in setting her off into that.
God, now I'm thinking about the moment when all she wanted was to save him.
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, that would be interesting if you know, Raffaele turns into the villain. But for me, I don't believe it. But you know, more, you know, who knows with these books what can happen.
All right.
You know,
so on that note, that's a really good segue. Let's just go straight to our predictions for the Rose Society, which is the second book in the series, which is coming out this October? I probably should know this, but it's coming out in the fall.
October 8th.
October 8th. Natasha knows. So,
I'm pretty sure it's October 8th.
So
there's
what are
3 different books coming out that day.
I think it's actually the 7th. Somewhere around there.
In that vicinity. But what do we think? What do we think is going to happen when that date, whenever it is, comes?
Okay.
What's going on now?
My initial prediction, which I know, Kate, you disagree with, Because I know that Marie Lu calls this a villain's tale, and I didn't see Adelina quite as the villain in the first one. Like I saw her heading in that direction, but I didn't see her there yet. So my guess, oh, and there's that whole like Enzo's dead, but people have what's her name has the power to bring people back from the dead, which creates this whole other thing.
Maeve.
Yes, Maeve has the power to bring people back from the dead, even though they get creepy. Whatever. Okay. But so my initial prediction was that Adelina is going to become obsessed with the idea of finding this elite that can bring Enzo back. And she's basically going to do whatever she can to find who ends up being Maeve, pretty much destroying anyone that gets in her way. That was my prediction, and then perhaps at the end of book 2, she finally does find Maeve and brings Enzo back. I feel like that would be like the ending of book 2.
I feel like you're kind of right in that sense, but I think because the Dagger Society already has the relationship with Maeve, that they will get her on board for bringing Enzo back, and something's going to happen. There's going to be some sort of occurrence, and Adelina's just going to end up coming face to face with Enzo. Because Maeve's powers, at least on her brother Tristan, I believe his name was, he was fine for a few years, and then he started getting weird.
Right.
So when they first meet, he'll be fine. But then I think going beyond that a little bit, that excuse me, woo, I got the sniffles.
He'll be fine, but he'll probably be absolutely terrified of what Adelina has become.
Well, no, because I think that with her abilities, she'll be able to, because she works in kind of darkness, and like, I feel like if what's going on is a darkness of the mind, she's the one who's going to be able to extract that from him. I know, like, it's a villain's tale, but she's still the antagonist. I mean, the protagonist, not antagonist. She's still the protagonist, and she's still going to be likable, and I don't think she's going to end up being this, like, unforgivable bad guy, because then everyone would kind of just be like, what the hell, this is bullshit, why did I read this? Like, I think there's going to be more to it than that. I think we all learned that the episode 1, 2, 3 approach of Star Wars was not working and should not be a thing ever again. And I don't, even though people say, oh, she's Anakin Skywalker, I think she's a bad person in her actions, but not always in her intentions. And so I think in the end, intentions will win out. But I do definitely see Enzo coming back. I see Raffaele using his influence to gather a lot of young elites, but that the Rose Society, which is being started by Adelina and Violetta, is going to end up getting a few really, really good members that are really going to change the game for them. What about you, Natasha?
I hate predicting stuff that, from one to another. There's only like a couple of things I think that I'd want to see, I guess, or that I can try and predict, and one of them is the idea of, like everybody says, Maeve is going to bring back Enzo, but I think for book 2, I think it's going to actually happen sooner than what Ellie predicts, and that it'll either be near the beginning or in the middle, and that somehow it's going to affect him to where Adelina and him have to have a have like a confrontation actually in the third one. So what I'm saying is that I'm predicting that Enzo's transformation back to life is going to be something that will be the cliffhanger of book 2. And that's all I'm going to predict, though, because I don't want to, like, there's like a whole bunch of theories about what the other characters are going to do, and you know, including the Queen and including Taryn and stuff like that. And there's just way too many possibilities, but that's, as far as Enzo goes, that's where I think it's going to happen, but I could be wrong there too. It's rare, but it does happen.
Somebody's full of herself.
What? I'm just being honest. So that's
And with that, do we have any more comments on this book before we sign off for the night?
No, I don't. I mean, I don't. I just hope, you know, I'm just like, I'm hoping, but, you know, there's so much going on. You know, there's all these characters and stuff, and I you know, obviously in the second one, of course, I think there's going to be more introductions of new characters, and I can't wait for that.
Absolutely.
I always get excited about, you know, meeting new and expanding the world.
The entire Rose Society has to form.
Well, I like the idea of, like, now that we've gone through the introductions, the second book tends to be my favorite when it comes to, like, the trilogy, so that's what I'm hoping for.
Oh, you're weird then.
I know, I am. But it tends to be my favorite. I mean, Catching Fire was my favorite. Insurgent was my favorite. You know, when it comes to
Insurgent was your favorite?
Yes.
Sorry. Anyway, okay.
The question mark on that.
I'm gonna start insulting books now.
Although I will
talking.
say this: Delirium was actually my favorite in the trilogy of the Delirium trilogy.
Okay.
So, I will say that.
So she had one book where she didn't like the best.
I'm just saying I have this tendency to like the second book, but it doesn't always apply.
All right. So Ellie, any last words from you?
The Rose Society cover is pretty.
Yes, it is. And it alludes to Maeve quite a bit, which is why we all have all these Maeve theories.
Oh wait, maybe we should introduce the Rose Society's cover while we're still on here. Well, while I'm pulling it up, you want to ask it if
should we mention what we're going to talk about next month?
Yes. So while Natasha pulls up the lovely image of the Rose Society cover, let's talk about next month. We have decided that we are all going to forge into a book together. It's not going to be a, oh, I've already read this, she's already read this, why don't you read this? Or
I'm so excited.
Or something that we, you know, read like a year ago and now we're discussing because we still love it. This is a brand new book for all of us. We are going to be discussing for April, we are going to be talking about Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard, which we have two book covers right now. My reviews are just
side by side.
So,
okay,
let's
Dobby, quit it.
Dobby is Ellie's dog, and he means well, and he's adorable, so we forgive him. But all right, so let's look at the cover of the Rose Society real quick.
There it is.
And as you can tell, it's got the what is it, tiger, leopard, whatever that's.
It's a wolf, the white wolf.
Wolf. I couldn't remember what it was. I knew what it was.
It's in regards to Adelina, of course, being the white wolf. So there's that. Of course, I'm interested in this shield
I feel like that's
or
going to be some sort of
emblem.
symbol of the Rose Society.
Yeah, but it looks pretty cool.
All right. So that is the cover. And just going back, we are definitely looking forward to that when it comes out in the fall, and I'm sure we'll end up talking about that. And now, as you can tell from Ellie and Nat, who both have physical copies, I don't, so I'm not going to hold anything up. Next month, we are going to be reading Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard, which has been getting phenomenal buzz, and none of us have read it yet, and we are super excited to dive in and see what it's all about. And we'll be talking about that one the third Monday in April, which is the 20th. So
Yes.
we look forward to seeing you all then. All right, have a good night, folks.
Bye. Bobby says bye too.
Obviously.